Here's another question put to me by Random Gamer. Steph, I started to learn coding 2 years ago to pursue my dream to be an entrepreneur. That's cool. You got to start, right? The problem is that all the ideas that I have already made, let me try to read that again. The problem is that all the ideas that I have are already made by someone. How can I find a good original idea? Good question, good question. So what I have found, the key to finding a really good idea as an entrepreneur is to get yourself into a particular market or particular domain and really understand it. I learned this a long time ago with my first business when I was in the importation business, fish, importing rare fish for public aquariums, zoos, and collectors. I had a line of water purification products and so forth. And what I learned in that, I started out when I was 18. What I learned in that first business was that you don't really know what the market needs until you're in it deep. And then you start to recognize what is important and what isn't important. So let me give you an example. So I was in the pet product business selling my own line of water purification products, and I sold unusual food for fish breeders and stuff. I know it's a weird business, but that's what I did. And so one day I got a call from a company down in Florida, and they made bird food. And I called the story, I called it the bird food incident. And it really was a real big learning lesson for me. Anyhow, they sold this type of bird food, and they sold me on the bird food. The bird food's great, it's amazing. The birds, it's super nutritious, blah, blah, blah. It's a great price, competitive. They sent me all the specs. And I had a couple of birds when I was a kid. I said, I had a couple of birds, I guess I can do birds. I'm in all these pet stores anyway, so maybe I can distribute this new fangled bird food into the Canadian market. So I said, okay, ship me up a ton of bird food. So they shipped me a ton of bird food, 2,000 pounds of bird food. And I figured I would try it out. So we brought in the bird food, and then I gave out samples to all kinds of professional bird breeders. Believe it or not, there are people out there, they'll breed parrots and parakeets and all kinds of other types of birds. And they sell them to pet stores and wholesalers. Anyhow, so I gave away a bunch of this newfangled bird food that sounded amazing on paper. Great nutrition, great, fantastic, good price. So then I send it out, and a couple of weeks later, I call up a couple of these bird breeders. I say, oh, how's that bird food? And they said, nah, it's no good. The birds don't like it. I'm like, what do you mean they don't like it? They don't like eating it. They don't like eating the food. No. And then I realized, I didn't realize, then I was told by these bird breeders, they said the number one thing that people look for in a bird food is whether it is palatable, whether the birds want to eat it. Apparently birds are very picky about the food that they eat, which was something that totally surprised me. So when I was dealing with that guy in that company down in Florida, and he was selling me on the virtues of this great quality bird food, because I wasn't a bird expert, I did not ask him that crucial question, which was, do the birds like eating it? That's the number one thing. If the birds don't like eating it, it doesn't matter how nutritious the bird food is, doesn't matter the price, doesn't matter. So I call that the bird. So I had 2,000 pounds of bird food stinking up the place, and birds didn't want to eat the damn stuff. Fortunately, I was able to find a bird breeder who decided to buy it off of me at cost, and he did whatever he did with it. But it was just a terrible investment, and because I didn't have good enough knowledge about the industry, about breeding birds, I wasn't able to assess whether that product was any good. Same thing with software development. If you don't have expertise in the particular domain, it could be the pet business, it could be the coffee business, it could be pillows, who knows, right? If you're not an expert in that area, or you're not like a hobbyist who knows it so well, who knows whether or not this product needs fixing, or there might be a demand for this kind of product, if you're not in it deep, it's very hard for you as an entrepreneur to assess whether or not your product will or service will work, whether it's software or anything else. And at that point in time, if you don't know, it is just a shot in the dark. So as I've said in other videos, in my entrepreneur course, I teach this. You have to, first and foremost, get into the domain you're interested in penetrating, translate that into non-nerd, figure out which type of business you like. So let's say you like the gourmet coffee business. Well, you got to become a gourmet coffee expert. So, you got to drink a lot of coffee. You should then work at least a month or two at a gourmet coffee shop so you can understand what's going on behind the scenes, and start doing some research. Start talking to coffee shop owners. Not just one, but several. Start, just experiment, getting on a coffee blog so you understand where there might be a weakness in the coffee industry, where you might be able to write a piece of software that the coffee industry or the gourmet coffee industry may need, right? So it goes to any industry. So as I teach in my entrepreneur course, domain knowledge, a domain could be the coffee industry, a domain could be couch making industry, a domain could be remote control industry, a domain could be the speaker industry. Domain knowledge is more important than technical nerd knowledge. Domain knowledge is more important than technical nerd knowledge. So there is a entrepreneur or a pathway, if you will, in terms of becoming a tech entrepreneur. Number one, you learn your foundational skills. This way you have the eyes to assess all the technology choices that you have out there. Number two, you become proficient in a particular domain that you're interested in. And then when you're armed with that knowledge, coupled with your good foundational knowledge and technology, you can put that together and create a product potentially that could be used, that could be successful in the marketplace. That is how you find a good idea as an entrepreneur. This applies for tech entrepreneurs, any type of entrepreneurs. And a final point with this, you're going to have to pivot and you're going to have to refine, even if your original idea was pretty good to begin with. Studio Web, my educational SaaS, I built a prototype, but I designed it about 8 years ago, and it's gone through many, many, many changes over the years. In fact, we just did a rewrite from scratch that now I'm deploying all new students on. And we learned a lot over the years about exactly what it is the app had to do to make it work properly or most effectively in terms of teaching people. In fact, there may be 100 little changes, and I don't know what the exact number is, could be 75, could be 110, but let's say for the sake of argument, there's maybe 100 little changes in the application that make it really effective. You change this a little bit here, makes it 0.5% better. Change this a little bit here, makes it 2% better there. Change that here, makes it 5% better there. But all these little changes add up and accumulate into a very effective piece of software. And you're going to see that in your entrepreneurial activities. You can't get married to the ideas, as I used to say. That means that you got to be prepared to pivot all the time, be responsive to the marketplace. That's where humble comes in handy. Good business people are humble as they are confident. In fact, when you're really confident, you can be even more humble. A person who is arrogant is actually very insecure many times inside. So being humble, knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know will help you. It's one of the most important tools, and it's going to help you very much when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Anyway, if you want to learn all about this kind of stuff, I got my entrepreneur course, hours of training at this level and much better with guides, my freelance course. Yes, I'm shamelessly self-promoting, but that's another rule of business in your life, whether you want to get a job, whether you want to freelance, whether you want to set up a SaaS. And if you're dating, you got to self-promote to a certain extent. Now, dating is a little bit more tricky. You can't be so blatant about it. But anyway, this is not a dating vlog, so I won't get into that. But nonetheless, self-promotion is also a part of life and business, as long as you do it with a certain level of respect for everybody else around you. All right, I hope you found this useful. That's it for today. Bye-bye.